If you stood upon the sun-baked earth of the Okavango Delta in the heart of the dry season, you might foolishly believe that life here had surrendered to the tyranny of the sun. Cracked mud sprawls like ancient leather parchment, brittle grasses whisper like tired ghosts, and the horizon itself seems to quiver under the relentless weight of the African heat. From this barren expanse, you would never suspect the miracle waiting just beyond the calendar's slow turn. You would never believe that this dust-choked landscape is poised on the very edge of a spectacular metamorphosis. Yet every parched tree, every patient creature baking in the stillness knows a secret. The flood is coming. But here's the twist. The floodwaters that resurrect this desert don't fall from the delta's skies. No, they begin their journey hundreds of miles away in the highlands of Angola, where torrential rains thunder down from storm-swollen clouds. In a place so far from the Okavango that it seems like another world altogether, these rains pour into the headwaters of the mighty Cubango and Quito rivers. They gather like an army of liquid life, forming rivers that meander southward, dragging with them the promise of resurrection. It's a curious thing, really. The delta is not replenished by its own rainfall, but by the generosity of a distant land. Like a guest that arrives late to a feast but brings all the food, Angola's rains deliver bounty to the Okavango months after they've fallen. The journey of the floodwaters is not a sprint, but a long, patient pilgrimage. They snake their way through narrow channels and sun-baked plains, filtering through the Caprivi Strip and eventually spilling into the pan-flat landscapes of northern Botswana. And as they arrive, they do not crash like tsunamis or stampede like rivers in rage. No, the Okavango flood behaves with the grace of an orchestra tuning itself for a grand symphony. Slowly, reverently, the waters fan out across the delta's thirsty canvas, seeping into old riverbeds, sneaking beneath ancient fig trees, curling around termite mounds, and gently caressing the land awake. What unfolds is nothing short of a miracle. This pulse of life, this aquatic heartbeat, transforms the delta from a dusty hollow into a shimmering labyrinth of lagoons, swamps, and reed-fringed channels. The dead earth exhales. Grasslands, which once stood brittle and brown, explode into a jubilant carpet of emerald. Papyrus and sedges rise like an emerald army, waving their feathered heads under the wind's playful breath. The air, previously scorched and silent, thrums to life with the gossip of birds, the croaking declarations of frogs, and the insistent hum of dragonflies. A carnival of biodiversity begins to parade through the Okavango. And oh, how the animals know. Long before the first trickles arrive, instinct stirs within the pulse of life's participants. Elephants, those living barometers of water, led their herds across dusty corridors towards the memory of once sodden plains. Crocodiles, having buried themselves in mud tombs to outlast the dry torment, now rise like resurrected beasts, their ancient eyes blinking against the returning sunlight dancing on water. Hippos, who endured the dry season in shrinking muddy puddles, are granted the gift of restored kingdoms, their caverns of water deepening into glorious arenas for their blubbery dominance. Migratory birds, sensing the invisible tide surging southward, arrive in a feathery flurry from distant realms. The delta becomes an avian metropolis. African jacanas tiptoe across lily pads with comedic delicacy, while majestic fish eagles patrol the sky, their piercing cries echoing over liquid highways below. Even the shy, slaty egret, a delta specialist, emerges from the shadows to feast upon the smorgasbord of aquatic life blossoming beneath the surface. Beneath these glistening waters, life teems in frenzied abundance. Tiny fish, newly hatched, dart like silver confetti through submerged grasses, while the sharp-eyed tigerfish prowls the shallows with murderous intent. It's a buffet beneath the surface, a glimmering feast born from the Angolan rains, and every gilled predator in the delta knows it. Invertebrates bloom like fireworks. Snails, water beetles, and wriggling aquatic insects thrive, drawing the attention of hungry amphibians and birds alike. The flood does not merely bring water, it triggers an ecological chain reaction, igniting life at every level of the food web. What makes the Okavango flood pulse especially enchanting is its counterintuitive timing. While much of southern Africa enters its dry season, the Okavango awakens to life-giving inundation. It's a paradox of time and place, a wetland in bloom while surrounding landscapes wither. In many ways, the delta is nature's rebellious child, dancing to its own hydrological rhythm, defying seasonal expectations with wild abandon. But this liquid bounty is not endless, nor is it without danger. With abundance comes competition, and the Okavango's predators are keenly aware of opportunity. Lions, uniquely adapted to this aquatic arena, prowl the margins of floodplains, sometimes swimming between islands in pursuit of antelope. Their golden pelts glisten with water droplets as they move with sinuous precision, stalking red lechwe that bound across swampy meadows, hooves splaying to stay afloat. Leopards, ever the opportunists, exploit the rising water to flush out prey from dense thickets, pouncing from tree limbs with explosive force. Even the tiniest streams of water tell stories. Termite mounds, now marooned as miniature islands, become unexpected sanctuaries for snakes and nesting birds. Islands of higher ground, known locally as termite islands, serve as refuges for everything from warthogs to hyenas. These patches of dry land are precious lifeboats in the Sea of Plenty, but also strategic hunting grounds for predators who know desperate prey will cling to them. As the flood swells to its peak, the delta reaches its most magnificent form. It sprawls over 15,000 square kilometers, a mosaic of life visible from space, resembling a giant handprint of water laid upon the heart of Africa. And in that moment, the Okavango becomes something almost mythical, a place where earth, water and sky perform an annual ballet of rebirth, a living testament to nature's capacity for renewal. Yet beneath this grandeur lies a fragile truth. The flood pulse is delicately balanced, vulnerable to the whims of climate and human interference. Drought upstream in Angola, or diversions of water for agriculture, threaten to weaken the pulse, to silence the symphony. Conservationists and local communities alike understand that this miracle demands guardianship. After all, this is not just a wetland. It is a life machine, a liquid lifeline for thousands of species, a spectacle that binds Angola's rains to Botswana's thirst and stitches together a sanctuary for life in the midst of desolation. As dawn breaks over the awakening delta, sunlight scatters across the newly formed channels, painting the landscape in molten gold. Egrets rise in elegant formation, hippos grunt their approval of the new day, and elephants trumpet as they wade into waters deep enough to hide their formidable frames. The flood has arrived, and with it the Okavango has been reborn. In this moment, life does not merely survive. It flourishes, celebrates, and sings. At first glance, the idea seems almost laughable. Lions, the self-proclaimed kings of Africa, draped in regality and crowned with golden manes, are creatures of dry savannas, of sunlit plains where they strut with an aristocrat's swagger across open ground. They are supposed to be thunderous paws on dusty earth, not ripples in water. In the imagination of many, they should recoil from the thought of getting their royal feet wet, let alone plunging chest deep into crocodile-infested channels. And yet, in the Okavango Delta, where nothing ever plays by the rulebook, lions have learned to abandon such foolish pride in favor of survival. Here, they do not merely tolerate water. They embrace it, conquer it, and rule it. They are the amphibious kings of the channels, sovereign predators of both land and lagoon. It is a transformation born not of choice, but of necessity. The Okavango Delta is a paradise, yes, but it is also a labyrinth of flooded plains, winding channels, and waterlogged meadows that stretch into infinity. For much of the year, the dry season carves out solid hunting grounds, but when the flood arrives, this kingdom is swallowed by water. Prey disperses across soggy islands and slippery marshes, and any lion still clinging to landlocked habits is left hungry, marooned on shrinking patches of dry earth. But the lions of the Okavango, specifically the great prides of the Duba Plains and surrounding floodplains, have evolved into something extraordinary. They have mastered this amphibious maze, turning adversity into advantage, and in doing so, they have become one of the most formidable predator forces in all of Africa. Watch them at dawn, and you will see this marvel unfold beneath the rising sun. Mist coils over the channels, soft and spectral, as lions emerge from the shadows of island thickets. They slip silently into the water, shoulders flexing beneath wet fur, their bodies forging ripples across the surface like tawny crocodiles. There is no hesitation, no disdain for their sodden state. These lions move through water with the grim determination of creatures who understand that the liquid realm is no longer an obstacle, but an opportunity. They wade, they paddle, and when the channel deepens, they swim, powerful limbs scything through the current, tails held high like periscopes as they advance towards unsuspecting prey. The water itself grants them a tactical advantage that few predators on Earth enjoy. Unlike open savannas, where the thud of approaching paws and the rustle of grass can betray a hunter's presence, the delta's labyrinth muffles sound and masks scent. The channels offer a kind of liquid camouflage, concealing lions beneath floating mats of reeds and tangled papyrus. Buffalo, their primary quarry, graze on flooded pastures, often blind to the ambush gliding silently toward them. With only a mane or the flick of a whisker visible above water, these lions close the gap until it is far too late for their prey to flee. And what prey it is! The buffalo of the Okavango Delta are no meek victims. They are colossal, barrel-chested beasts hardened by perpetual combat with lions and crocodiles alike. Their hulking frames carry the muscle of survivors, and their temperaments are forged from endless skirmishes in the flooded arena. They form tight battalions, standing flank to flank, horns like spears pointed outward to ward off danger. But no matter how formidable, even the bravest buffalo must eventually wade into water to graze. And it is in these moments of vulnerability that the lions strike. The hunts here are operatic in scale, clashes worthy of ancient epics. A lioness leads the charge, her eyes fixed upon a buffalo standing chest-deep in water. She powers through the channel, kicking up fountains of spray, closing the distance with astonishing speed. Her pride sisters follow, flanking the target in a coordinated assault. Buffalo bellow in alarm, their hooves churning up mud and froth as they try to escape, but the terrain is treacherous. In the delta, the playing field tilts unpredictably. Water can become ally or enemy in a heartbeat. If the buffalo stumble in the muck or misjudge a submerged hollow, they falter, and in that breath of hesitation, the lions pounce. The moment of impact is a cacophony of splashing water, roars, and desperate bellows. Lions latch onto their quarry with claws and teeth honed by evolution for precisely this moment. Their wet fur clings to muscular frames, and their eyes blaze with predatory fire as they haul the buffalo down, sometimes in water deep enough to force them into a desperate wrestling match beneath the surface. It is brutal, it is primal, and it is undeniably mesmerizing. The delta does not offer easy victories, but for these lions, triumph is often claimed by sheer audacity and teamwork. What makes these aquatic hunts even more astonishing is the stamina of the lions involved. Unlike their dryland cousins, Okavango lions endure marathon pursuits across flooded terrain, their muscles burning with fatigue as they push through resistance. They are heavier, bulkier than typical lions, with powerful builds that allow them to plow through waterlogged obstacles. Some biologists even believe that the isolation and demanding environment of the delta have sculpted these lions into larger, more robust versions of their species, living proof that nature rewards those who dare to adapt. Their story is not merely one of physical prowess, but of remarkable social cohesion. The lionesses of the delta operate with military precision, their coordination honed by years of communal hunts in this challenging environment. They flank, they feint, they anticipate the movements of prey as though choreographing a deadly ballet. Even the males, often lazy figureheads in other ecosystems, play an active role in the Okavango's flooded theaters of war. Drenched and glistening under the sun, they join the fray with explosive power, tipping the scales in favor of the pride. But amidst the violence and glory, the lions of the Okavango Delta remind us of nature's brutal honesty. Here, survival demands sacrifice. Hunts often end in exhaustion and defeat. Injuries are common: gouges from buffalo horns, bites from rival predators, or even the lurking menace of crocodiles that occasionally turn the tables on unsuspecting lions. Yet for every failed ambush, there is a lesson learned, a refinement of technique, an evolution in strategy. The lions grow wiser with each encounter, passing their aquatic warfare tactics from generation to generation. As dusk descends upon the delta, and the water catches the amber hues of the sinking sun, the lions retreat to the safety of elevated islands, their bellies full, their bodies heavy with fatigue. Steam rises from their damp coats as they collapse in the grass, warriors momentarily at rest. Around them, the delta hums with nocturnal life. Frogs croak their chorus, hippos grunt their territorial claims, and crocodiles slide silently beneath the surface, awaiting their own moment of ambush. In the Okavango Delta, where water rules all and survival is dictated by the flood's whim, the lions have claimed dominion over two worlds, land and water alike. They are not just kings of the savannah, but emperors of the channels, rulers of a kingdom where no predator should dare to swim. Yet they do. They do, because in this amphibious empire fortune favors the bold, and the bold wear manes of gold. In the Okavango Delta, there are monsters older than the land itself. They are not mere relics of a bygone era. They are survivors, warriors honed by over 200 million years of evolutionary combat. Beneath the mirror-smooth surface of the delta's channels, hidden beneath rafts of papyrus and lily pads, they wait in ancient stillness. They are the Nile crocodiles of the Okavango, river dragons disguised as driftwood, architects of ambush, and undisputed emperors of aquatic terror. The beauty of the delta, so rich with life and bustling with drama, holds a quieter menace under its liquid skin. This is no fairy tale wetland. For every sunbeam glistening on the water's surface, there lurks a shadow beneath. It is easy for the untrained eye to mistake a crocodile's ridged back for a fallen branch or a slumbering log bobbing lazily in the current. But make no mistake, this is a calculated deception, perfected through millennia. Patience is their deadliest weapon. These reptiles have mastered the art of invisibility, becoming sculptures of water and mud, statues in the theater of survival. The life of an Okavango crocodile is a waiting game played at an excruciatingly slow tempo. They lie submerged for hours, even days, with nostrils just barely breaking the surface to sip at the air. Motionless but acutely aware, they listen to the pulse of the delta, the rhythmic drumming of hooves on soft mud, the flutter of wings grazing the water, the gentle splash of an unsuspecting antelope seeking a drink. In these moments, time itself seems to hold its breath, and the crocodile becomes a silent equation of distance, speed, and inevitability. When the opportunity finally arrives, it is over in a flash. From immobility erupts violent precision. With an explosion of muscle and momentum, the crocodile launches itself from the water with shocking ferocity. Its jaws, powered by a bite force exceeding 3,700 pounds per square inch, clamp shut with an audible crack around the unfortunate victim. There is no struggle worthy of mythic tales. There is only the savage certainty of the ambush, sudden, brutal, and final. Consider the fate of the red leshwe, one of the delta's most frequent victims. Perfectly built for watery habitats, the leshwe has evolved with long legs and splayed hooves, ideal for prancing across swampy plains. It moves with the elegance of a ballet dancer, skipping through marshes where most antelope would flounder. But even the leshwe, as adapted as it may be, lives under the constant shadow of crocodilian ambush. One fateful slip, a moment's distraction while drinking, and the river monster strikes. The crocodile hauls the hapless antelope beneath the surface, where the water swirls with mud and crimson. The scene ends in eerie silence, save for the ripples slowly smoothing out across the water's surface, as if nothing had happened at all. It is not only the leshwe that must live in fear of these river tyrants. Warthogs, zebras, wildebeests, and even buffalo venture to the water's edge with trembling caution. Elephants, towering and unyielding, seem impervious, yet even they are not entirely safe. While an adult elephant is generally too much for a crocodile to handle, younger calves crossing channels behind their mothers can fall prey to a particularly daring croc with a taste for ambition. Such events are rare but grim reminders that in the Okavango, nothing is ever guaranteed, and fortune favors not the brave, but the prepared. The cunning of these crocodiles extends beyond ambushes at the water's edge. During the height of the flood season, when water blankets the delta like an inland sea, crocodiles become mobile marauders, expanding their hunting grounds across the flooded expanse. They drift with the current, cloaked in floating vegetation, infiltrating nesting colonies of birds or prowling beneath reed beds thick with life. Even seemingly secure islands become stages for crocodile assaults, especially as nests brim with the bounty of vulnerable eggs and fledglings. What is perhaps most fascinating is the role these formidable predators play in the grand symphony of the delta's ecosystem. Far from mindless killers, crocodiles are essential regulators of life, preventing any one species from dominating the floodplain. By keeping herbivore populations in check, they preserve the delicate balance of vegetation and water channels, ensuring that the delta remains a thriving habitat for all. Without their presence, grazing animals could overrun the system, trampling and devouring the very reeds and grasses that filter and purify the water. Moreover, crocodiles are remarkably efficient recyclers. After a feast, their leftover carcasses, sunken and hidden beneath the reeds, provide nourishment for a host of scavengers and decomposers. Fish nibble at the remains. Turtles scavenge fragments of bone and tissue, and even aquatic insects thrive on the banquet provided by the crocodile's leftovers. In this way, death by crocodile feeds life in the delta, a macabre yet vital contribution to the web of existence. And then there is the matter of the crocodile's own legacy. Their nesting rituals, timed to the rhythm of the flooding waters, are marvels of reptilian strategy. Females painstakingly choose elevated patches of land to build their nests, scraping together mounds of vegetation and mud where the sun's warmth will incubate their precious clutch of eggs. When the hatchlings emerge, squeaking softly within their shells, the mother becomes an unlikely guardian, gently carrying her brood to the safety of the water in her mighty jaws. In this vulnerable stage, they are prey for herons, catfish, and even other crocodiles. Yet a few will survive, slipping into the anonymity of the shallows to grow into the next generation of Okavango's river monsters. Crocodiles also command respect from their fellow predators. Lions, despite their dominance over the delta's terrestrial arena, treat large crocodiles with wary deference, steering clear of their gaping jaws when paths cross at river crossings. Even leopards, bold and cunning, avoid the submerged menace. Only hippos, with their colossal bulk and cantankerous temperament, dare challenge crocodiles directly, sometimes driving them away from favored grazing pools with thundering charges and bone-shaking bellows. As night descends upon the delta and the waters darken beneath the cloak of twilight, crocodiles emerge from their ambush posts to patrol the channels under the cover of darkness. Moonlight dances on their armored scales as they glide effortlessly through the water, ancient sentinels in a kingdom that has endured for eons. Their eyes, reflective and cold, scan the darkness for silhouettes of prey, their bodies coiled with silent power. In the Okavango, where floodwaters rise and fall like the breath of the land, crocodiles are both predator and guardian, terror and provider. They are nature's paradox incarnate, monsters sculpted by time, whose violence sustains life and whose hunger maintains the balance of a fragile paradise. To see a crocodile here is to witness an echo from a primordial past, a living fossil that continues to shape the present with every lunge, every ambush, and every ripple in the water. As the delta breathes through its endless cycles of flood and drought, these ancient predators remain eternal, gliding through the veins of this watery kingdom, forever patient, forever poised, and forever kings beneath the surface. In the emerald floodplains of the Okavango, where the earth breathes through liquid lungs and the horizon shimmers with the mirage of life, there marches an army, not of warriors clad in steel, nor of generals barking orders from horses, but of grizzled, hulking beasts clad in thick hide and crowned with horns as sharp as battle-forged blades. These are the buffalo of the delta, Africa's unsung battalions, soldiers in the eternal war between predator and prey. They do not seek conquest, nor do they crave glory. What they fight for is older, more primal, and far more sacred: survival. When the floodwaters arrive, the delta becomes a battlefield where every step is measured, every decision is a wager against death. For the Cape buffalo, the delta's abundant greenery is both a feast and a fatal trap. The water-saturated grasses sprout thick and tall, promising a banquet that can sustain their massive herds for months. But these same flooded meadows are riddled with dangers hiding beneath the surface: crocodiles lying in wait, lions watching from the shadows, and the ever-present threat of ambush in a terrain where visibility is a luxury rarely afforded. Yet if the lions and crocodiles are the sharp edge of nature's sword, the buffalo are its shield, weathered, battered, but unbroken. They move as a living phalanx, a wall of muscle and bone, black silhouettes surging through the flooded plains like a dark tide. At dawn, when mist rises off the channels and the sun begins to stretch its golden fingers across the landscape, the earth trembles beneath their hooves. The weight of their stampede sends tremors through the waterlogged ground, and the air fills with the rhythmic thunder of hundreds of hooves pounding against soaked soil. Mud spatters, reeds buckle, and small birds take to the air in a frantic flutter, knowing well that nothing stands still when the buffalo battalions are on the march. Their formation is no accident. The strongest bulls take up positions along the outer flanks, eyes sharp for the glint of predatory intent. Calves and weaker members are corralled within the protective heart of the herd, shielded by the fortress of their kin. Every movement is steeped in caution, every advance a slow, deliberate push through the maze of water and danger. Buffalo do not simply wander. They strategize, read the land, and communicate with snorts and body signals as clear and urgent as any military code. This vigilance is not born of paranoia, but of bitter experience. In the Delta, lions are not lazy opportunists basking in the sun waiting for fortune to favor them. No, here they are tacticians of terror, sculpted by this waterlogged terrain into relentless pursuers. They shadow the buffalo herds with chilling patience, watching from thickets of papyrus and shallow islands cloaked in vegetation. For the lions, the buffalo are a prize worth risking everything, a walking mountain of meat that can sustain an entire pride for days. But claiming this prize is a perilous endeavor. Buffalo may seem like lumbering brutes, but beneath their rugged exterior lies a ferocity that commands respect across the predator kingdom. When threatened, they do not scatter like startled gazelle. Instead, they turn, unite, and prepare for battle. Bulls will lower their heads, curling their lips in defiance, as if daring their attackers to come closer. The herd contracts into a dense mass, horns bristling in every direction, like a living fortress of ivory and bone. Should a lion make the fatal error of underestimating this collective fury, it may find itself gored, trampled, or tossed high into the air like a ragdoll caught in a storm. There are tales from the Delta of lions mortally wounded by buffalo horns, of prides fragmented after failed hunts, nursing bruises and broken bones beneath the shade of fig trees. There are even stories, half whispered by bushmen and rangers alike, of buffalo pursuing wounded lions long after the battle has ended, as if exacting revenge from their eternal adversaries. The Delta does not play favorites, and though the lions may be masters of ambush, the buffalo are equally masters of resistance. And yet, the line between hunter and hunted remains a razor's edge. No matter how formidable the herd, no matter how fierce the defense, there will always be moments when nature's relentless lottery draws an unlucky number. Calves straying too far from their mothers, elderly bulls lagging at the rear, or individuals caught in the mire of treacherous terrain become prime targets for the hungry eyes watching from the reeds. Lions pounce upon these chances with merciless precision, isolating the weak from the strong, driving wedges into the herd's defensive wall until a breach is forced open. The ensuing chaos is as breathtaking as it is brutal. Buffalo scatter in a maelstrom of mud and splashing water, bellowing in alarm, while lions dart in with lethal intent. The dust, churned into the air by thrashing hooves, mingles with the mist rising from the floodplain, casting the battlefield in an ethereal haze. Victories here are hard-won and costly for both sides. Even in defeat, the buffalo's defiance echoes across the Delta, a reminder to every predator that claiming the crown comes with a price. Beyond the bloody ballet of predator and prey, the buffalo play a quieter yet equally vital role in shaping the Delta's ecosystem. As they graze, their trampling hooves churn the earth, opening pathways through dense grasslands and creating clearings that become nurseries for fresh vegetation. Their droppings fertilize the soil, fueling the cycle of life from the ground up. Birds like oxpeckers perch upon their broad backs, plucking ticks and parasites from their hides, turning the buffalo into mobile buffets for opportunistic avian hitchhikers. Their very presence orchestrates a ripple effect of survival across the Delta. Where buffalo graze, predators follow. Where predators follow, scavengers gather. Hyenas, vultures, and jackals linger on the fringes of the herd's path, waiting for their chance to claim the spoils of the eternal struggle. In this way, the buffalo are not just participants in the drama of the Okavango, they are its central characters, the axis around which much of the ecosystem turns. As twilight descends upon the Delta, and the last rays of sunlight catch upon the water's surface, the buffalo herd settles into wary repose. Calves nestle against their mothers, bulls stand sentinel against the encroaching darkness, and the murmurs of the herd soften into a low, unified hum of survival. The night may bring new dangers, prowling lions, lurking crocodiles, the endless call of the wild, but the buffalo will face them as they always have, together, shoulder to shoulder, a living testament to the power of unity in the face of relentless adversity. In the Okavango battleground, where the tides of life and death rise and fall with the floodwaters, the buffalo are both the front line and the last line of defense. They do not wear crowns nor seek titles, yet they rule their domain with the quiet strength of the enduring. For they understand, perhaps better than any other creature here, that survival is not about avoiding the fight. It is about standing firm when the fight inevitably comes. When the blazing sun dips below the watery horizon of the Okavango, and the searing heat of the day gives way to a cooler, breathless dusk, the delta shifts into an entirely different rhythm. The great herds of buffalo settle into defensive formations, crocodiles ease into their nocturnal drift, and lions regroup for their nightly campaigns of force. But high in the trees and lurking between the veils of moonlight and shadow, a far more secretive predator stirs. The leopard, Okavango's ghost in the floodplain, begins to awaken, as silent as mist rising off the water and just as elusive. If the lions are the blunt force generals of this war zone and the crocodiles its lurking traps, then the leopards are the assassins. They do not announce their presence with roars or rippling muscles. Instead, they operate like whispers of death, perfectly adapted to navigate the mosaic of water, woodland and shadow that is the flooded delta. And where others charge through the chaos, the leopard slips through it, unseen, unheard, yet always near. The trees of the Okavango, sculpted by wind and water into sinuous, sprawling canopies, are the perfect vantage points for this stealthy hunter. Here, the leopard finds both sanctuary and strategy. By day, they lounge along thick limbs, draped with the casual elegance of a creature that has nothing to fear. Their golden coats, dappled with black rosettes, melt into the interplay of light and leaf, rendering them nearly invisible to both predator and prey. But beneath this facade of indifference lies a coiled spring of lethal precision. The leopard's ambush begins long before it makes its move, as it studies the patterns of life beneath its perch, with eyes like polished amber lanterns, charting the comings and goings of potential victims. Leopards are masters of patience, sculptors of opportunity. They do not waste energy on reckless pursuits, nor do they gamble on uncertain targets. Instead, they wait for the perfect moment. When an impala, distracted by the lull of evening, grazes too close to the shadows beneath the fig trees, or when a baboon, fatigued by a day of foraging, becomes too sluggish in its vigilance. Then, with a slow unfurling of muscle and claw, the leopard descends from its arboreal throne. Each step is a study in silence, its padded feet brushing the bark with feather-like precision. Gravity itself seems reluctant to betray the predator as it glides toward the forest floor like a wraith born of darkness. But the delta, of course, is no ordinary hunting ground. It is a watery labyrinth where the landscape itself challenges every hunter's strategy. For the leopard, this mosaic of channels and islands is not a hindrance but an advantage. Where others struggle with the unpredictability of submerged terrain, the leopard thrives. In shallow waters, they move with uncanny grace, paws spreading to distribute their weight and avoid sinking into the muck. If the channel deepens, they swim. Yes, swim, with a determined prowess that belies the myth of cats' aversion to water. In the Okavango, necessity has taught the leopard that water is not an enemy, but an ally, a liquid curtain behind which it can hide and stalk its prey. Nightfall, however, is when the leopard's dominion truly begins. As the sky darkens to obsidian and the stars prick the heavens like ancient scars, the floodplain transforms into the leopard's hunting ground. The sounds of the delta sharpen under the moonlight. The croaks of frogs become choruses. The rustle of reeds amplifies with every breeze, and the occasional splash betrays the blundering steps of unwary creatures. But above it all, there is a silence where the leopard moves, a void of sound that marks its passage as surely as footprints in the mud. In these nocturnal hours, the leopard becomes a predator sculpted from shadow. Its eyes, perfectly adapted to the dim light, gather every glimmer of moonshine and starlight, painting the world in silvers and greys. It stalks through flooded meadows where water laps at its belly, merging with the reflections of reeds until it is almost indistinguishable from the landscape itself. Prey animals, lulled by the cool of night and false security of darkness, often sense the threat too late. A rustle becomes a blur becomes a flash of muscle and claw, and then the floodplain echoes with the muffled thud of a takedown. Impala, bushbuck, young lechwe, all fall within the leopard's repertoire, but the true artistry lies in its unpredictability. No two hunts unfold the same way. One moment the leopard might launch from a tree branch, crashing down upon an impala with the force of a falling comet. Another, it may emerge from beneath the shadowy overhang of riverbank reeds, dragging an unsuspecting prey underwater in a silent imitation of the crocodile's ambush. It is this adaptability, this chameleon-like ability to become both phantom of the forest and spirit of the floodplain, that makes the leopard one of the delta's most formidable predators. Yet, for all its prowess, the leopard's life is not without risk. Hyenas, ever the opportunists, shadow the leopard's hunts, eager to rob them of hard-earned kills. Lions, if encountered, will not hesitate to eliminate their spotted rival, viewing it as both competition and nuisance. Even crocodiles, those ancient reptiles of death, lurk in the very waters the leopard must sometimes cross, turning every swim into a gamble between sustenance and survival. But the leopard counters these threats with cunning rather than confrontation. After a successful hunt, it often hoists its kill high into the tree canopy, suspending its prize above the reach of scavengers. There, cradled in a fork of branches, the carcass hangs like a grim fruit of victory, to be savored in solitary feasts under the watchful eyes of the stars. Such aerial larders are a signature of leopard ingenuity, ensuring that the fruits of their labor nourish them well beyond the moment of the kill. As dawn's first light creeps across the floodplain and the world stirs from its nocturnal slumber, the leopard retreats into the camouflage of foliage, vanishing once more into the landscape as if it had never been there at all. The reeds sway gently, the water smooths to glass, and life in the delta resumes its ceaseless march. Only the faint imprint of paw prints in the muddy banks, or the sight of a half-eaten carcass nestled in the boughs of a fever tree, betrays the presence of this stealthy assassin. In the Okavango, where survival favors the bold but rewards the clever, the leopard reigns not by brute force or brute numbers, but by its mastery of invisibility and surprise. It is the silent shadow that haunts every thicket, the ripple of muscle beneath moonlight, the unseen hand that plucks life from the floodplain with surgical precision. Here in this watery wilderness, the leopard does not merely survive the chaos, it thrives within it, becoming the ghost of the delta that no prey can ever quite outrun. At first light, before the sun stretches its full golden wings across the Okavango Delta, the land hums with a subtle vibration. It is not the tremor of water lapping against papyrus banks, nor the whisper of breeze teasing the tops of fever trees. No, this is something far deeper, more ancient, a pulse that seems to rise from the earth itself. It is the thunderous yet dignified footfall of the delta's architects, the true giants of this watery kingdom, the elephants. They move not like predators nor like prey, but as sovereign monarchs, shaping the landscape beneath their mighty feet, sculpting ecosystems with every ponderous step. If the Okavango is a living, breathing paradise, then the elephants are its beating heart. To watch an elephant clan advance through the delta is to witness the slow, deliberate rhythm of nature's oldest migrations. They stride with the wisdom of ages, following paths not marked on any human map, but etched into memory, passed down through generations. These paths are more than routes between feeding grounds. They are arteries of life carved into the landscape, routes of survival mapped by matriarchs who remember not just the rains of last season, but the flood patterns of decades past. Beneath the swamp's shifting mosaic of water and grass, elephants sense hidden channels and submerged trails, as if they carry an intimate blueprint of the delta within them. Their migrations are monumental undertakings, family sagas that unfold across miles of flooded terrain and dry islands. At the helm of each clan marches a matriarch, a towering female whose years have sculpted her into a living library of wisdom. She leads not with bluster but with calm certainty, reading the land like a book whose every chapter is inked in mud, grass and water. Her ears fan out like great sails, her trunk swings with quiet authority, and behind her, the family follows in a train of devotion. Calves, still unsteady on their broad feet, splash joyfully in the shallows, their miniature trunks swinging like curious pendulums as they mimic their elders. Adolescents, full of cheek and bravado, jostle for position, occasionally pausing to test their strength against fallen trees or the stubborn resistance of termite mounds. Yet, for all their familial warmth and gentle play, the elephants of the Okavango are more than a migrating herd. They are ecosystem engineers. With every step, they leave their mark upon the landscape, reshaping it in ways few other creatures can rival. Paths trodden by countless feet become thoroughfares not only for elephants, but for entire communities of animals. Warthogs follow in their wake, using the clearings to forage safely. Antelope, ever cautious, exploit the elephant-made corridors to navigate the otherwise tangled delta. Even predators, including lions and leopards, use these same tracks to move swiftly through the maze of swamp and forest. The elephants do not merely walk upon the land, they sculpt it. In the dry season, when the delta's waters begin to retreat and the surface hardens under the sun's stern gaze, elephants dig into the parched earth with their powerful tusks and trunks. They gouge deep holes in search of groundwater, unearthing hidden reservoirs that soon become life-saving oases for a multitude of thirsty creatures. These elephant-dug wells act as communal watering holes, sustaining birds, reptiles, and mammals alike through the harshest months. With a few determined thrusts of their trunks, the elephants literally summon life from the ground. As the floods swell and transform the delta into an inland sea, the elephants shift their role from excavators to navigators. Their size, often seen as a burden, becomes their greatest advantage in the flooded landscape. Where other animals struggle with treacherous footing and submerged dangers, elephants stride confidently through channels deep enough to submerge a lion. They wade across the wetlands with almost regal grace, their bulk creating wake trails that churn the water and stir up nutrients from the riverbed. Fish dart into the swirling plumes, feeding on dislodged morsels, while birds like egrets and storks follow close behind, plucking easy meals from the stirred-up shallows. Beyond feeding, the elephants also shape the delta's very architecture. In their search for food, they topple trees, breaking branches and uprooting stubborn trunks. While this may seem destructive, it is, in truth, a form of ecological renewal. Fallen trees open the canopy, allowing sunlight to reach the floodplain and encourage new plant growth. Broken branches become nesting sites for birds and habitats for insects. Deadwood, left behind in elephant paths, collects silt and seeds, eventually sprouting into new thickets of life. In this way, the elephants act as both destroyers and creators, agents of chaos that beget renewal. Their diets alone influence the botanical diversity of the delta. Consuming hundreds of pounds of vegetation daily, elephants act as both gardeners and janitors. They prune overgrown woodlands, prevent grasses from smothering water channels, and disperse seeds across vast distances through their dung. Indeed, an elephant's digestive system, while comically inefficient, is perfectly designed for this role. Seeds swallowed in one corner of the delta reappear miles away, deposited in nutrient-rich fertilizer that jump-starts the growth of new flora. From towering palms to delicate wildflowers, the fingerprints of elephants are everywhere in the Okavango's lush tapestry. Amidst this grandeur of environmental stewardship are the intimate, almost tender family moments that reveal the elephant's deeply social nature. Calves learn by observation, watching their mothers dig for water, strip bark from trees, and navigate flood channels. They practice their own clumsy trunk maneuvers, sometimes managing only to spray mud onto their foreheads or fling a mouthful of grass into the air. Adolescents engage in playful sparring matches, locking tusks and pushing against one another, honing the strength they will one day need to defend their families or vie for mates. Older matriarchs gently discipline the exuberant young, guiding them with soft rumbles and reassuring touches of their trunks. These family bonds are the glue that holds elephant society together, a lifeline that stretches across the years and generations. When faced with danger, be it the stealth of a lion pride or the lurking menace of crocodiles, the herd closes ranks, forming an impenetrable circle of tusks and trunks around their most vulnerable members. Their coordinated defense is a testament not only to their strength, but to their unity. Even in the face of tragedy, when a calf is lost or a matriarch passes away, the herd mourns in solemn vigil, lingering at the site of death, caressing the bones with their trunks in gestures that defy simple explanation. As twilight descends upon the delta and the horizon blushes with the deep hues of sunset, the elephant clans press onward through the swelling waters. Silhouetted against the fiery sky, they appear almost mythic. Ancient titans striding through a primeval landscape, carrying the legacy of ages upon their broad shoulders. With each step, they reaffirm their dominion over this wild and wondrous realm, not as tyrants, but as custodians of balance and life. In the Okavango, where water breathes vitality into the land and survival depends on resilience and adaptation, elephants are more than inhabitants. They are the pulse and the power of the delta, the architects of ecosystems, and the silent historians of the floodplain's endless cycles. Their journey is not merely one of survival, but of stewardship, a testament to the enduring spirit of life carved in mud, water, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As the first blush of dawn spills across the Okavango Delta, gilding the floodwaters in a soft amber glow, there is a stirring not just on the ground, but in the vast, limitless skies above. While crocodiles blink their ancient eyes and elephants heave themselves from slumber, the air crackles with a different kind of energy. Invisible at first, Save for the shadows that dance upon the surface of the water, a silent armada of feathered predators rises with the sun, each poised to carve its place into the great battleground of survival. Up here, the delta is no less savage than it is below. The skies are not a sanctuary. They are a war zone, a realm of raptors and river hunters, where precision reigns supreme and death descends on silent wings. Perched upon skeletal trees that stretch above the floodplain like the watchtowers of forgotten fortresses, the African fish eagle surveys its kingdom with imperial authority. Its chest gleams white against the dark varnish of the bark, and its amber eyes scan the mosaic of water and land with a gaze as sharp as any spear. The fish eagle is the undisputed monarch of this aerial domain, and it wears its crown not with vanity, but with ruthless purpose. When it spots a glimmer of silver beneath the rippling surface, there is no hesitation, no wasted motion. The eagle launches itself into the sky, wings unfurling with an almost theatrical flourish, and arcs into a dive that defies gravity itself. Down it plummets, talons extended like hooked daggers, slicing through the air at breathtaking speed. The moment of impact is a liquid explosion, a geyser of droplets shimmering in the rising sun, and in an instant, the eagle emerges victorious, a struggling fish clasped firmly in its deadly grip. With powerful wing beats, it ascends once more, trailing glistening beads of water behind it like a comet's tail. It is a performance that repeats countless times across the delta each day, and yet never loses its primal drama. For the fish eagle, every hunt is a triumph of evolutionary perfection, a ballet of muscle and instinct refined over millions of years. But the skies above the Okavango are far from a solitary stage. Sharing this vast aerial theater are the herons, long-legged phantoms of the wetlands, whose hunting style trades speed for patience and precision. At first glance, a grey heron seems almost comical in its stillness, like a poorly placed statue forgotten amidst the reeds. Yet this frozen posture is a masterstroke of deception. With neck coiled like a loaded spring and eyes fixed upon the water, the heron waits with the serene confidence of a creature that knows time is its ally. Fish drift closer, lulled by the absence of movement, and then, with a flash of motion so fast it is almost invisible to the naked eye, the heron's spear-like bill pierces the water, emerging moments later with a wriggling prize skewered upon it. Herons hunt not with the dramatic flair of the fish eagle, but with the quiet elegance of assassins who prefer their work clean and efficient. They stalk the shallows, lifting their spindly legs with exaggerated care, like dancers crossing a fragile stage. Each step is placed with deliberation, avoiding ripples that might betray their presence to skittish prey. Their patience is legendary, their strikes unfailing. And while their diet is varied, from fish and frogs to crustaceans and even small mammals, it is the pursuit of aquatic prey that cements their role as river hunters par excellence. Among these aerial champions, however, there is one predator whose size belies its ferocity, the kingfisher. Compact, jewel-toned, and radiating a flamboyant charm, the kingfisher might seem more suited to an artist's palette than the battlefield of the delta. Yet beneath its iridescent plumage beats the heart of a fearless hunter. Perched on slender branches that overhang the channels, the kingfisher watches the water below with hawk-like intensity. Its head bobs and tilts as it calculates distance and angle, a tiny mathematician of death. And then, with a flick of wings, it plunges headfirst into the depths, vanishing beneath the surface before erupting seconds later, a gleaming fish clenched triumphantly in its bill. What the kingfisher lacks in size, it compensates for with relentless precision and daring. Its streamlined body and dagger-like beak allow it to slice cleanly through water, while specialized vision enables it to compensate for the refraction that would confound lesser predators. Even the kingfisher's skull is uniquely adapted, absorbing the shock of impact with the water to protect its delicate brain. These are not mere pretty birds perched for show. They are aerodynamic torpedoes, honed by necessity to thrive in the delta's liquid labyrinth. Collectively, these raptors and river hunters form a deadly pantheon ruling the skies and waterways of the Okavango. They compete, they clash, and they coexist in a complex web of interactions that adds yet another layer of intrigue to this already chaotic ecosystem. The fish eagle, for all its majesty, must defend its catch against opportunistic scavengers like the marabou stork, whose ominous silhouette drifts like a dark omen over the plains. Herons must remain vigilant against sudden aerial raids by larger raptors eager to steal an easy meal. Even the kingfishers, nimble as they are, risk becoming snacks themselves for hawks patrolling the floodplain. But perhaps most fascinating of all is the way these avian predators serve as barometers of the delta's health. Their presence, in such astonishing variety and number, is a testament to the vitality of the wetlands. A rich menu of fish, amphibians, and insects supports their relentless hunting, and in turn, they help maintain ecological balance. By controlling fish populations and preying upon the weak and diseased, they ensure that the delta's aquatic communities remain robust and thriving. Their hunts, dramatic as they may be, are more than spectacles of survival. They are essential rituals in the ongoing symphony of life. As the day matures and the sun reaches its zenith, the aerial battlefield does not relent. Thermals rising from the heated floodplain carry vultures high into the sky, circling in patient anticipation of predatory leftovers. Kites wheel gracefully, plucking insects from the air with effortless agility. Even the delta's lesser-known hunters, like the black-winged pratincoal, join the fray, turning insect-choked air into a feast. It is a dynamic, ever-shifting contest where no creature, no matter how small or mighty, hunts without competition. When dusk finally creeps across the Okavango, painting the sky in strokes of crimson and violet, the avian warriors of the delta do not so much rest as recalibrate. Nocturnal hunters, like the barn owl, rise from hidden roosts to take their turn in the ongoing assault. The herons linger in the gloaming, their pale forms ghosting through the mist, while fish eagles return to their lofty nests, silhouetted against the dying light, to feed their downy chicks with the spoils of the day. In the end, the skies above the Okavango are not a mere backdrop to the drama unfolding below. They are an arena in their own right, a realm of precision and peril where life hangs in the balance with every wing beat and dive. Here, among the clouds and reeds, predators rule not with size alone, but with timing, accuracy, and the fearless embrace of the hunt. The avian invasion of the delta is relentless, beautiful, and utterly essential to the lifeblood of this extraordinary wilderness. Beneath the scorching sun and amid the liquid labyrinth of the Okavango Delta, a formidable force glides just beneath the surface, deceptively serene in appearance, yet carrying within it the storm of untamed fury. Hippos, Africa's armored tanks, are often dismissed as oversized, water-loving lawnmowers, bobbing like oversized pool toys in their muddy channels. But to make that mistake is to fatally underestimate one of the most volatile and unpredictable creatures in the whole of the delta. These are not mere grazers, they are bulldozers of the waterways, architects of chaos, and unrelenting warriors cloaked in a veneer of laziness. During the heat of the day, hippos appear as slothful lumps strewn across sandbanks or semi-submerged in channels, only their nostrils, eyes, and twitching ears exposed to the world. Beneath their placid facade, however, simmers a ferocity that belies their comical girth. The delta's waterways are not wide enough for their collective egos, and territorial disputes unfold with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer duel. Bulls, bloated with testosterone and entitlement, patrol their aquatic territories like mafia enforcers guarding turf, ready to explode into battle at the first hint of trespass. When two male hippos clash, it is as though the very fabric of the water shudders under their rage. They rise from the depths like mythic beasts, mouths yawning open in defiance, revealing cavernous maws armed with tusks capable of gouging flesh and splintering bone. These battles are not quick affairs of posturing and empty threat. No, they are brutal, full-contact combat, contests of weight and willpower, where 2 tons of muscle and momentum slam together like runaway freight trains. Water churns into froth, mud geysers skyward, and spectators, from crocodiles to birds perched nervously on reeds, scatter in frantic retreat from the aquatic battlefield. And yet, for all their bombast, hippos are not simply mindless brawlers. They are, in many ways, accidental architects of the delta. As they trample their broad paths through reed beds and graze upon aquatic vegetation, they carve channels and open water routes that other species use to navigate this soggy maze. Their sheer bulk and tireless movements sculpt the waterways, maintaining open corridors that allow fish, amphibians, and even crocodiles to traverse the floodplain. Hippos, whether they realize it or not, are engineers of this aquatic empire, keeping it connected and dynamic. But it is at nightfall when the hippos truly shed their drowsy daylight disguise and transform into marauding foragers. Under the cover of darkness, They abandon their watery sanctuaries and embark on nocturnal grazing expeditions that rival any army on the move. Emerging in mass from their liquid strongholds, they trudge across the delta's floodplains, their squat legs propelling their hefty frames with surprising urgency. Each night, they consume up to 40 kilograms of grass, their wide mouths sweeping the greenery with metronomic efficiency. Where they pass, the grasslands bear the scars of their relentless hunger, trimmed low, flattened, and fertilized by the generous droppings they leave in their wake. These moonlit raids carry an air of invincibility, but they are not without peril. Hippos may dominate their aquatic domains, but on land their vulnerability spikes sharply. Lions, ever the opportunists, watch these nightly pilgrimages with predatory interest. Though an adult hippo presents a formidable target, young calves or solitary bulls wandering too far from the herd fall well within the lion's appetite. The ensuing confrontations are spectacles of brute strength and razor-edge strategy. Lions employ relentless harassment tactics, nipping at flanks and retreating before the hippo's lethal jaws can close. Over hours, they wear down their colossal adversary, exploiting exhaustion and panic until the tide of battle turns in their favor. Yet lions do not always emerge victorious. More than once, a pride has misjudged its quarry and paid the price in broken ribs or crushed skulls. When cornered, even a single hippo fights like a beast possessed, swinging its enormous head like a medieval mace and thundering into its attackers with all the unstoppable force of a living battering ram. In such moments, the distinction between predator and prey blurs, and the hunters become the hunted, fleeing before the wrath of this amphibious juggernaut. Crocodiles, too, find themselves entangled in the unpredictable tempest of hippo havoc. Despite sharing the same watery real estate, the relationship between croc and hippo is far from harmonious. Territorial disputes erupt without warning, and while crocodiles boast fearsome reputations, they rarely challenge an adult hippo head-on. Wise crocs give these irritable behemoths a wide berth, sliding away beneath the surface to avoid the crushing power of tusk and jaw. On occasion, however, curiosity or hunger tempts fate, particularly when a crocodile strays too close to a hippo nursery. What follows is not a battle but a rout, a hippo tsunami erupting from the depths, scattering crocodiles like driftwood before a flood. Amid all this chaos, it is easy to overlook the quieter, more tender side of hippo society. Beneath their bluster lies a deep well of social complexity. Mothers dote upon their calves with surprising gentleness, guiding them through the labyrinth of reeds and water channels, shielding them from danger with maternal devotion. Calves are born into the safety of water, their tiny heads bobbing alongside their mothers as they learn the rhythms of the delta. These maternal bonds form the bedrock of hippopods, with females banding together in defensive solidarity against predators and rival bulls alike. Communication within these pods is equally fascinating. Hippos are some of Africa's most vocal mammals, their deep, resonant bellows echoing across the floodplain like foghorns in the mist. These calls serve as territorial warnings, social greetings, and on occasion romantic overtures. Beneath the water, they engage in an even more secretive exchange, producing low-frequency rumbles that travel great distances through the liquid medium, allowing them to converse invisibly beneath the surface. As dawn approaches and the horizon softens into the pale hues of morning, the hippos retreat from their nocturnal exploits, lumbering back to the safety of their aquatic sanctuaries. Mud-caked and grass-stained, they slip beneath the surface with the heavy grace of submarines submerging, leaving behind only ripples and memories of their midnight raids. The delta breathes a momentary sigh of relief as its bulldozers of chaos settle into temporary repose. In the grand theater of the Okavango, hippos are far more than overweight herbivores lounging in mud baths. They are the storm and the stillness, the architects and the anarchists, the thunderclap that reshapes the floodplain. They embody the paradox of this living wilderness, creatures of both fury and fellowship, destruction and creation. Their path is never quiet, their presence never passive. Whether forging new waterways, fending off rivals, or launching nocturnal assaults on the grasslands, hippos leave an indelible imprint upon the Okavango, as much a force of nature as the floodwaters themselves. In the golden hush of dawn, as the mists drift lazily over the Okavango's labyrinth of channels and islands, there is a sudden shift in the air, a tension, a crackling urgency, as if the landscape itself braces for the chaos about to unfold. Quiet though the delta may seem at this hour, its pulse is quickening beneath the morning light. A ripple in the reeds, a blur of motion skimming the floodplain, And then, like a streak of wild lightning, they arrive. The African wild dogs. Painted wolves, some call them, as though their chaotic splashes of ochre, black and white had been dabbed by a frenzied artist's brush. But there is nothing random about these creatures. Every stripe, every mark, every motion has purpose. They are the most efficient killers of the Okavango, relentless, coordinated and unstoppable once the hunt begins. Unlike the solitary stealth of the leopard or the brute force of the lion, the wild dogs thrive on cooperation. Their power lies not in individual strength but in unity, a symphony of precision played out across the shifting stages of water and land. Each pack is a tightly knit family, a band of brothers and sisters bound by unbreakable loyalty and a common goal: survival through collective conquest. While other predators rely on ambush or power, wild dogs orchestrate their hunts like seasoned generals, their tactics refined by millennia of practice. The Okavango Delta, with its twisting channels, fragmented islands, and unpredictable terrain, is a playground perfectly suited to their style. Where others see obstacles, wild dogs see opportunity. They skim the edges of floodwaters with fluid grace, weaving through reed beds and leaping across rivulets with athletic ease. Their lean frames, built for endurance rather than brute force, carry them tirelessly across miles of sodden earth, each stride a testament to their evolutionary design. In the Delta's complex mosaic, speed alone is not enough. It is their ability to read the landscape, to anticipate its twists and turns, that makes them truly lethal. Before the hunt, there is a ceremony, a ritual of sorts, as essential as the chase itself. The pack gathers in a writhing knot of excitement, tails wagging furiously, ears perked, bodies vibrating with anticipation. This exuberant greeting is more than mere enthusiasm. It is the glue that cements their cohesion. Here, in this chaotic dance of nips and nudges, bonds are strengthened, roles affirmed, and strategies wordlessly communicated. These pre-hunt rallies synchronize their senses, aligning every heartbeat to the rhythm of the impending pursuit. Then, with the subtle flick of an alpha's tail or the silent surge of collective instinct, the hunt explodes into motion. Like liquid shadows, the wild dogs fan out across the floodplain, forming a living net that tightens around their prey. Impalas, lekvis, and even young buffalo calves fall within their crosshairs, and for these unlucky targets, the clock begins to tick mercilessly. Wild dogs do not rely on stealth to close the gap. They use sheer endurance, harrying their quarry until exhaustion sets in. They are marathon runners wearing the faces of assassins, outpacing and outlasting even the fleetest of prey. As they give chase, the delta becomes a blur of motion. Water splashes in glittering arcs beneath their paws, reeds bend and sway as they surge past, and startled birds erupt from the grasses in panicked flocks. The prey, desperate and disoriented, veers into channels or toward higher ground, but the dogs adjust with uncanny precision. Some flank from the sides, herding their victim into the waiting jaws of others. They anticipate every swerve, every desperate gambit, responding as a unified organism composed of many bodies but a single, ruthless intent. What sets wild dogs apart is not just their physical prowess, but their extraordinary ability to think and act as one. There is no room for ego in their ranks, no lone heroics or reckless blunders. Each member plays their part, from the alpha pair leading the charge to the subordinates and yearlings providing critical support. Even pups too young to join the hunt are cared for by dedicated babysitters who stay behind to guard the den, ensuring the next generation of hunters will soon take their place in the pack's deadly ballet. And when the kill is finally made, the reward is not hoarded by the victors alone. In a display of communal generosity rare among predators, the wild dogs share their spoils with the entire pack. Pups and elderly members are fed first, a practice that speaks volumes about the depth of their social structure. This unity, this unshakable commitment to the well-being of the group, is what enables the wild dogs to thrive even in the face of formidable odds. Yet for all their mastery of the hunt, life for the wild dogs of the Okavango is fraught with peril. Lions, viewing them as both rivals and threats to their cubs, kill wild dogs whenever they can catch them. Crocodiles lie in wait at crossings, their jaws ready to claim any dog bold or unlucky enough to misjudge the water's deception. Disease, too, is an ever-present enemy. Rabies and canine distemper, often introduced by domestic animals far beyond the delta's borders, have decimated packs in the past, their viral reach as deadly as any predator's fang. but the wild dogs endure, driven by a resilience as fierce as their communal spirit. They adapt to the shifting tides of fortune, learning to exploit every nuance of their environment. During the dry season, they pursue prey across open plains, using dust clouds to mask their approach. When the floods rise and scatter herds across isolated islands, the dogs master aquatic navigation, swimming between territories with fearless determination. They are the Delta's shapeshifters, molding themselves to fit the landscape's every whim. As the day wanes and the sun dips toward the horizon, casting the floodplain in hues of molten gold, the wild dogs retreat to shaded refuges, their lean bodies heaving from exertion. Pups tumble over each other in playful mimicry of the day's hunt, learning through games the skills that will one day sustain the pack. The adults rest but remain ever vigilant, ears twitching at the slightest rustle in the reeds, noses tasting the air for the faintest scent of threat or opportunity. In the great theatre of the Okavango, the wild dogs perform a dance that is both brutal and beautiful, choreographed by evolution and perfected by experience. They are the relentless rhythm of the floodplain, the heartbeat of coordinated predation. Unlike solitary killers or ambush artists, they rely on each other, bound by a code of cooperation that transforms them from individual hunters into an unstoppable force of nature. They are the pack hunters of the flood, the painted wolves of Africa, whose deadly dance through the delta is a masterclass in unity, strategy, and survival. In their pursuit of prey, they write their story across the waters and grasses of the Okavango, a story that echoes with the pulse of life itself. Relentless, adaptive, and above all, wild. As the sun lifts from the horizon and stretches its golden fingers across the Okavango Delta, the entire landscape seems to awaken in a breathless crescendo of life. Mist lingers like ghostly veils over the floodplains, slowly unraveling to reveal a world in motion, a living mosaic of creatures great and small, each playing their part in an endless, intricate symphony. From the restless stirrings of the hippos in their muddy fortresses to the stealthy prowls of leopards along shaded tree limbs, from the jubilant calls of fish eagles overhead to the silent ripple of crocodiles beneath the water's skin. Every note of this wilderness orchestra contributes to a harmony forged over millennia. And yet, beneath this natural grandeur lies a fragile truth. The Okavango, as mighty as it seems, balances on a knife's edge between abundance and oblivion. The delta is not simply a backdrop for life. It is the stage, the script, the orchestra, and the conductor all at once. It breathes with the seasonal pulse of the floodwaters, exhaling verdant green life when the rains come, and inhaling the dry dust of hardship when the waters recede. Every creature here, from the smallest aquatic insect to the thundering herds of buffalo, is interwoven in a tapestry so complex and delicate that to pull a single thread risks unraveling the whole masterpiece. The elephants, those grand architects of the swamp, carve pathways that allow predators and prey alike to navigate this watery world. Hippos, lumbering and quarrelsome, plow channels that keep water flowing to nourish the reeds and grasses, feeding not just themselves, but countless others. Crocodiles, fierce and fearsome, serve as both apex predator and scavenger, recycling life back into the ecosystem. Even the dazzling, darting kingfishers with their precision strikes play their part by keeping fish populations in delicate check. Above this liquid labyrinth, raptors wheel and dive, the sky's own predators casting moving shadows over the plains. Lions test the strength of the buffalo battalions, keeping the herds on the move, shaping the grasslands in their wake. Wild dogs, with their coordinated hunts and communal feasts, regulate the numbers of antelope that graze upon the delta's bounty. Each predator, each prey, each tree, and each droplet of water participates in a vast, unknowable choreography of survival. It is not a world of chaos, but of careful, ruthless order, a predator's paradise and a prey's proving ground, all stitched together by the invisible thread of water. Yet this perfect balance, so painstakingly maintained by nature's ancient hands, is now under siege from forces far beyond the delta's emerald boundaries. Climate change, creeping across the planet with invisible menace, threatens to disrupt the rains that feed the Okavango's heartbeat. The waters that once poured reliably from the Angolan highlands, traveling months to breathe life into Botswana's wilderness, now falter in their flow. Extended droughts and unpredictable flood cycles cast long shadows over the future of this Eden. Without the flood, the delta shrinks, and with it, the tapestry begins to fray. Grasses wither, channels clog with silt, and the great congregations of animals scatter in search of vanishing water. The symphony quiets, its notes falling away one by one. Human encroachment, too, presses at the delta's edges like a tightening noose. Expanding farmland and burgeoning settlements gnaw into wilderness, diverting water for crops, fencing off migration routes, and splintering habitats. Poaching, though diminished through heroic efforts, remains a constant threat. Its cruel snares and silent bullets erasing lives that took years to build. Even well-intentioned tourism, if unmanaged, risks trampling the very wonder it seeks to celebrate, turning this wild sanctuary into a stage for human intrusion. Yet amidst these looming threats, there is also a growing force of hope, a new breed of guardians rising to defend the delta's fragile majesty. Conservationists, scientists, and local communities have come to recognize that the Okavango is not merely a national treasure, but a global sanctuary, a cathedral of biodiversity whose preservation benefits all of humanity. Collaborative efforts are underway to protect the watershed from upstream disruption, ensuring that the Angolan rains continue to feed this living labyrinth. Anti-poaching patrols brave dangerous conditions to safeguard the delta's most vulnerable inhabitants. Sustainable tourism models are being pioneered, designed to educate visitors while minimizing their footprint, so that they may marvel at the wild without diminishing it. Equally inspiring are the stories of local custodians, people whose lives are inextricably woven into the fate of the delta. The Mokoro polars, who glide traditional dugout canoes along quiet channels, share tales of hippo encounters and leopard sightings with reverent familiarity. They understand, perhaps better than anyone, that their future is tied to the health of the waters beneath their crafts. Programs engaging these local communities in conservation not only provide livelihoods, but transform them into frontline defenders of their homeland. In this way, the symphony finds new musicians, human voices joining the chorus of nature in harmony rather than discord. The Okavango's lesson is a profound one. In nature, resilience is born not from isolation, but from connection. It is the sum of relationships, predator to prey, plant to water, animal to land, that creates strength. When we pull back the lens and see the delta not as isolated parts but as a living whole, we come to understand that its survival is a mirror for our own. The same threads of interdependence that sustain hippos, elephants, fish eagles, and wild dogs also bind us as humans to this intricate web of life. As the sun dips once more toward the horizon and the delta is bathed in the golden hues of evening, the creatures of this watery world prepare for another night in their endless cycle of survival. Lions stretch and yawn beneath fever trees. Wild dogs gather for their evening hunt. Hippos lumber from the depths for their moonlit feasts, and birds find roosts from which to greet the dawn. The floodwaters lap softly against the reeds, carrying the promise of life with every ripple. For now, the delta endures. Its heart still beats, its waters still flow, and its wild inhabitants continue their timeless dance. But its fate rests delicately in the hands of those who choose to see its beauty not as a fleeting spectacle, but as a legacy worth fighting for. In the story of the Okavango, the final chapter has not yet been written. It remains an open book, its pages turned by wind and water, its verses sung by the chorus of creatures that call it home. And as long as its rivers breathe life into the floodplains, as long as its skies fill with the cries of eagles and the footfalls of elephants tremble through the earth, the Okavango Delta will remain what it has always been, a sanctuary of survival, a symphony of life, and one of the last great wild battlegrounds on Earth.